Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be doing my predictions for the 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards for the romance category. I actually almost forgot that it was about that time of year to do these predictions until my friend Jessica from Peace Love Books reminded me. She's also doing her predictions. I always have a lot of fun making these predictions, seeing who's going to show up in the opening round and of course who's going to be the winner. There's been a lot of good books out this year, so it's going to be hard to narrow down these books to, the top 20, but I'm sure it's going to be mostly traditionally published, mostly illustrated covers, and lots of Berkeley books. So here are my predictions for the 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards in the romance category. As always though, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear what you predict will be nominated and what you think will win. Alrighty, here is my little tier ranking thing that I like to use for these videos. I'm also using my little microphone, also known as a noodle mic, according to my friend Desiree. I can clip it on, but honestly, I like how it sounds better when I hold it here. So this is how we're doing it. So here I have the categories. Goodreads kind of changed the way they did these awards starting last year, because before we could do write-ins, but now we can't. They have the opening round has the top 20 books that they choose. All 20 books are chosen by Goodreads only, by whatever criteria that they have. And next is the final round, which narrows down the books to the top 10 according to all the votes. And then of course there is the number one winner. I added this category could make it, but probably not, just to make myself feel a little bit better, because as we all know, Goodreads always leaves off a ton of books. They leave off indies, they leave off historicals, they are just obsessed with contemporaries and illustrated covers, as you can tell. Let me move my little screen. So these are all the romances that I decided to include for this predictions list. Obviously, not all of them are gonna make it, but these are all the ones that I found were super popular this year. I included a mix of indie and traditionally published, even though we all know it's going to be mostly trad published books. Feel free to start making your own predictions, whether it's based on this list or your own list. I also did something a little bit different with this list because I decided to look at the number of to be read ads that each of these books had. I didn't even know you could look at that, but I found like towards the top of the general reviews section, there is a number that shows how many people have both rated it and added it to their TBR list. It will come as no surprise that Colleen Hoover has about 1 million for some of her books. But anyway, let's just jump into my predictions for the Goodreads Choice Awards, the 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards romance category. I'm going to start off with the top 10 books that are guaranteed. Like, I am 100% sure, well maybe like 99.9% sure that these top 10 books are going to make it, because they're the same super popular authors. They make it in every single year. Okay, so going through these, obviously Booklovers by Emily Henry is going on this list. It's definitely going to be in the opening round. It's got 400 something thousand ratings, which in itself is crazy, but totaled with the to be read ads, it's 1 million. It's above 1 million. Everyone loves Emily Henry. Everyone always loves her books. I mean, I do, even though Booklovers was my least favorite of hers. And then Allie Hazelwood with Love on the Brain, just because of how big she blew up with The Love Hypothesis. She's probably always going to be up on this list from now on. And then Abby Jimenez, I mean, every single one of her books I'm pretty sure has been in the opening round from the past few years. And then with this new release, Part of Your World, that's going up. And then Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I mean, anytime Colleen Hoover has, a new release, she is always nominated. She is the biggest romance author right now. Okay, I'm gonna move my screen again. Tessa Bailey is also another author who has blown up lately. Even though she's been here a while, she really blew up with It Happened One Summer. So the sequel to that is definitely gonna be in the opening round, Hook, Line, and Sinker. And then we have Christina Lauren, who I'm pretty sure every year also gets nominated. Their new release is Something Wilder. This one I actually surprisingly really liked, because I have not been liking their new releases. Another guarantee is The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. She's been nominated a few times, I want to say, in the past, and The Bodyguard is pretty popular actually. People are loving this one. I loved it. It's one of my favorites this year, and she's one of those more women's fiction-y type of authors, so she definitely has a bigger audience than just, just romance readers. And then we have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, another Colleen Hoover book on this list. I mean, I don't see how it couldn't make it, even with Reminders of Him. I had to double check the eligibility for like 2 books by the same author. As long as it's not the same series, 2 books by the same author can be nominated in the same category. So I'm pretty sure Reminders of Him and It Starts With Us are going on this list. And then we have a formerly indie book that did get picked up by a publisher, but I do feel like if it stayed indie, it would have made it anyway. It would have been like the one indie book that made it on the opening round from Goodreads, and that's Things We Never Got Over by Lacey Score. This one is insane. Like, people are crazy over this book. It's been in the top Amazon charts for months. People are still talking about this book. People are still loving this book, and there's no way this won't make it, even though this might be the first time Lacey Score has been nominated for the Goodreads Choice Awards. And then my 10th pick that I am so very sure that we're going to be seeing is another new author to the Goodreads Choice Awards, which is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Even though I don't love this book, everyone else seems to adore it. For me, it's the poor man's Love in Other Words, but people are eating this book up. It's got like 160 something thousand ratings, over 400,000 ads and ratings combined. It's a very big and popular book, so I would not at all be surprised to see it in the opening round. So those are my top 10 that I'm like, there's no way these books aren't showing up, right? If they don't though, I will be very surprised and very shocked because something is wrong or something's very fishy, but Goodreads is always fishy with these awards anyway. So let me just pick the rest of the opening round, the next 10 books that I'm pretty sure are gonna be nominated. Obviously, we gotta stick with the Berkeley books, so Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake, I'm pretty sure is gonna be nominated. It's a great FF romance. I mean, I feel like it deserves to be in this opening round, even though it doesn't have, you know, quite as many ratings as the rest of these big hitters. I mean, every year Goodreads will add, you know, some tiny book that we're like, wait, how did this get in? So even though this one isn't tiny, I do feel like it could make it. And then we also have some big Book of the Month books like Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. And I'm pretty sure that's partly the reason why this one got so big. And it does have a decent amount of Goodreads ratings, Goodreads ads. Elena Armas blew up big last year, so I am pretty sure she's gonna be back with the American Rooming Experiment for the opening round. I mean, she had like the same situation as Lacey Score where her book from last year was indie, but then it got picked up by a publisher. And now that her second book is with a publisher, I feel like it makes it even easier for her to get into this opening round list. Beth O'Leary is most likely going to be in this opening round as well. She's always been nominated. She's also another author who's always been nominated, even though she definitely falls more under the women's fiction category, but we don't have one for Goodreads. And then another one that I'm fairly sure is going to make it is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. She was nominated for In 5 Years in like 2020, I think, or whenever that book released. She was in the romance category. I don't read her, but I'm pretty sure she's more like a fiction author, women's fiction author, but she was in romance for In 5 Years, so I'm sticking her. New one, One Italian Summer in romance again. And it's another big book too. It's got 90 something thousand ratings, over 300,000 ratings and ads. I personally feel like it'll be very surprising if this one doesn't make it, but who knows what Goodreads chooses how to categorize these books. Another author that I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing as well is Katie Robert with Electric Idol. I debated between this one or book 3, but obviously, you know, the earlier books will have more ratings and more ads, so I went with Electric Idol. I have 16 books here, so we're getting into the last 4 books. And this is when things are getting a little bit harder for me. So I'm pretty sure Elle Kennedy will probably make it with Good Girl Complex. I mean, it doesn't have the highest rating, but I do think it's higher than the minimum rating that Goodreads requires for these Goodreads Choice Awards. It's like you have to have 3.5 or higher, and this one is what, 3.6? But Elle Kennedy's big, and this is traditionally published, so 2 reasons why Good Girl Complex is probably going to be in the opening round. And then I thought about a fantasy romance that released back in November or December, which does still qualify for the Goodreads 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards. It's King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. This one did really well. It's also traditionally published, and I mean, I feel like it could make it. I'm not 100% sure, but it's got a decent, like a good amount of ratings and ads. It did get more than Electric Idol and Dating Dr. Dill and Delilah Green, so it could still make it. Okay, I have room for 2 more in this top 20, and I have to include Anna Huang. I will be shocked if she doesn't make it in the opening round, especially since she did get picked up by a publisher, because Bloom Books has been picking up all these indie authors, which is great. Happy for them. Happy to see, you know, these romance books in bookstores. But the thing is, I'm very much debating between Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies, so I can't add both of them because they're part of the same series, but I feel like because Twisted Hate has more ratings and ads, it'll make it onto the opening round above Twisted Lies. But honestly, both of these books individually did so much better than a lot of these traditionally published books. And then for my final pick, oh my gosh, so I'm really debating between Terms and Conditions and Mr. Wrong Number. Mr. Wrong Number has the traditionally published, it's with Berkeley on its side, so that would definitely push it onto the opening round, but at the same time, Terms and Conditions has so many ratings. I mean, I actually added the first book in the series last year for my predictions from last year, and it didn't make it. I was very, very shocked. It did get picked up though by Bloom Books, so maybe that's enough to push Lauren Asher to the opening round. I mean, based solely off of numbers, Terms and Conditions would beat out everything else. So here are my predictions for the opening round, the top 20 books that Goodreads is gonna pick. Obviously, Berkeley is the biggest publisher for this list, but surprisingly, Bloom Books is here as well. Bloom Books is up there just because of how much they've acquired. Colleen Hoover is on here twice, that's no brainer, but I am pretty set on this top 20. I do have some other books that could make it. I'm like, I don't know, maybe Goodreads will change things up, but probably not. So I did want to highlight these indie books that did very, very well this year. There's these 4, A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime by Monica Murphy, Praise by Sarah Kate, Juniper Hill by Dabney Perry, and My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. This one, the Tessa Bailey one, actually has a decent shot just because it's got probably the most most amount of ratings and ads compared to the rest of this list, and it's still an indie book. But Tessa Bailey, she's just gone viral since last year, so this one is a decent contender to replace any of these other books, but probably won't just because it's indie and Goodreads doesn't like indie books. A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime also did well, but if I had to pick between these two, My Killer Vacation would definitely beat A Million Kisses. Another Berkeley book, though, that I feel like has a decent shot at making it is Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. I didn't realize how well this book did because I don't really see anyone talking about this book. Even though I really enjoyed it, I don't see anyone, you know, talking about it or posting about it. But it's Berkeley, it's got an illustrated cover, and it's got a good amount of ratings. So we could be surprised and see it somewhere in the opening round. Honestly though, these other 2 Berkeley books could also make it even though they have very, very low ratings. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if The Roughest Draft ended up taking Terms and Conditions over, and Weather Girl did pretty good this year as well, but I'm just gonna pick Mr. Wrong Number because that one has the highest ratings out of all of them. And then this other book that I came across that I had never heard of before is Nora Goes Off Script. It's by Annabelle Monaghan, and this one also has a good amount of ratings. But again, I had never heard of this book or this author, so maybe it's just some random book that blew up. Oh my gosh, I forgot that Megan Quinn was also an indie author, and she's been doing really well. Like, all of her books have a crazy amount of ratings for an indie author, but I don't think So Not Meant to Be did quite as well as her last one. Her last release is her biggest one, but this one is definitely not quite as good, not quite as high as My Killer Vacation and A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. I don't think A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings would make it, just because, I mean, compared to all the other hard hitters here. It's definitely not quite as high in terms of numbers, but again, we could have that curveball from Goodreads and they'll just include some tiny book, or at least some book that's traditionally published and doesn't have as many ratings as an indie book, as another indie book. Love and Other Disasters is another book of the month book that did very well, but I don't think it did well enough to actually make it into the opening round. And The Kiss Curse as well. That's another book of the month book. And I'm pretty sure the first book in that series from Erin Sterling did make it, but I don't think The Kiss Curse did as well enough to make it into the opening round. Jasmine Guillory, I will say, usually finds herself on these lists, but I'm just gonna not include her because By the Book didn't do quite as well as I expected. Maybe because it's not with Berkeley, I don't know. But yes, these are my 4 contenders that I feel like could possibly make it if Goodreads decides to change things up, but I really don't think they will. And then for my final round, the top 10 books, we're narrowing down this opening round by half, and these are all only by votes. There's not going to be any write-ins, unfortunately. Honestly, I could probably just stick with the top 10 that I went with, which is Booklovers, Love on the Brain, Part of Your World. Colleen Hoover, I don't actually know if enough people will vote for both of them or they'll just vote for one of them, but she is big enough to beat like a lot of these other ones, so maybe I'll just include both Reminders of Him and It Starts With Us. Tessa Bailey is definitely gonna make it onto the final round. I don't know about Something Wilder. I mean, people do love Christina Lauren, but did they really love Something Wilder that much? People do love The Bodyguard though, so I do feel like it could make it. Things We Never Got Over for sure. And Anna Huang has a fairly big following, so I feel like a lot of people would vote for her. And then one final book. I'm leaning towards Every Summer After or One Italian Summer. Both of them have summer in their titles. Maybe that's a thing. People love summer books, but I'll just go with Every Summer After. So these are my top 10. I'm still not too sure about Colleen Hoover with both of them making it, but it's Colleen Hoover, so wouldn't be surprised if they do. And then the winner of the 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards romance category, I am very torn between 3 choices, which are Booklovers, Reminders of Him, and It Starts With Us. 2 Colleen Hoovers and 1 Emily Henry. Emily Henry won last year, which I actually was very surprised by. I actually voted for The Love Hypothesis, even though I did love People We Meet on Vacation. But I will say People We Meet on Vacation did beat The Love Hypothesis by a tiny margin. So there's that. But that book has so many ratings. It's insane. And Emily Henry is just huge everywhere, but I don't think she's quite big enough to beat Colleen Hoover, especially not with, It Starts With Us. But maybe it's that weird type of voting thing where, yeah, sure, a lot of people love Colleen Hoover and a majority will probably vote for her, but maybe they'll be split, like 2 split in between Reminders of Him and It Starts With Us, so that Booklovers ends up with a majority. But honestly, I feel like the winner this year is gonna be It Starts With Us. And this is a combination of it's by Colleen Hoover, It Ends With Us, the first book in the series, won sometime a couple years ago, which I'm still mad at because I don't think it's a romance. There was no happily ever after. We do get a happily ever after though, and It Starts With Us, so I wouldn't be too mad if this one won, at least based on the happily ever after criteria. I do think what will help though is that this book just came out. It is very fresh on people's minds. It released a little bit over a week ago and it already has over 80,000 ratings. Like, yeah, sure, Reminders of Him has 500,000, Booklovers has over 400,000, but those came out months ago and It Starts With Us is just so fresh in people's minds. I mean, I do think people don't love It Starts With Us quite as much as It Ends With Us, but I still feel like it has a decent chance at winning. So this is my prediction for the 2022 Goodreads Choice Awards. I feel like It Starts With Us is going to be the romance category winner. Again, I wouldn't be too mad if it won just because it is a romance, but I didn't love the book. I gave it 3 stars. I have my whole review on it on my channel if you want to hear my thoughts on it. But I do feel like this would win just because of all the hype and how knew it is. Though I wouldn't be surprised at all if it ended up being Booklovers or Reminders of Him. I would be extremely happy if it ended up being Things We Never Got Over, Twisted Hate, or The Bodyguard, because these three were top favorites. Love on the Brain I did love as well, but not quite as much as The Love Hypothesis. Heart of Your World, sadly, is my least favorite Abby Jimenez book. Tessa Bailey, Hook, Line, and Sinker. This one I didn't love quite as much as the first book. And Every Summer After, ugh, did not like this book. So let me know what you think of my prediction. Do you think that I missed a book? I probably could have. Do you agree with the picks that I chose in these 2 rounds? Do you think that some other book will be the winner for this category? Let me know. I am very curious to hear your thoughts. Alrighty, so I just got finished filming my predictions. I'm very curious to see who's gonna end up winning, but I hope you enjoyed hearing about my predictions for this year. Links to all the books will be down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!